Welcome to the Solimi Dreams channel. Gently turn off the lights in your room, slip on your headphones or set the volume just right and close your eyes. I hope sleep finds you peacefully, perhaps even before the story comes to an end. So now, without delay, let me softly begin tonight's story. The tooth collector, Jonathan Miller, had been enduring a toothache for weeks. Initially, the pain had been tolerable, a subtle, nagging discomfort easily managed with a few aspirin. But lately, it had escalated into a relentless agony, radiating through his jaw, pulsing into his skull, disturbing his sleep and shattering his focus. Each throb felt like tiny needles driven into his nerves. Jonathan, who loathed dentists since childhood, finally gave in and searched for an available dentist in his town, his desperation overwhelming his deep-seated dread. Scanning through local listings, one caught his attention. Dr. Vincent Hale. The name seemed unfamiliar, the address located at the far edge of town, near the woods, in an old Victorian mansion. Jonathan hesitated momentarily, but the stabbing pain in his jaw urged him onward. Without further thought, he picked up his phone and made an appointment for later that evening. When the time came, twilight had already begun its descent, shrouding the sky in layers of deep indigo and fiery orange. Jonathan drove toward the address, noticing the thinning density of street lights and the increasing darkness enveloping the road. Eventually, he arrived before the looming mansion, its grand structure silhouetted ominously against the fading sunset. Jonathan parked his car, stepped outside, and shivered involuntarily at the chill in the air. The clinic's brass sign glinted dimly under the weak porch light. Dr. Vincent Hale, DDS. The entrance was lit softly by antique lamps that flickered as though breathing with a life of their own. Unease crept up his spine, but another sharp twinge from his tooth compelled him forward. The door opened with an eerie creak as Jonathan stepped into a dimly lit reception area decorated with antique furniture and faded portraits whose eyes seemed to track him. "Welcome," spoke a soft, calming voice from the shadows. Jonathan turned abruptly, startled by the sudden appearance of a tall, thin man dressed impeccably in an old-fashioned white coat. His face was gaunt, pale, framed by neatly combed silver hair, his eyes sharp and cold, like polished obsidian stones. "I'm Dr. Hale. You must be Mr. Miller." Jonathan nodded nervously. "Yes, that's right. Please follow me," Dr. Hale said smoothly, gesturing toward a dim corridor. Jonathan hesitated briefly, anxiety bubbling in his chest, but obediently followed, compelled by both courtesy and desperation. The examination room was strangely antique, furnished with equipment that looked outdated, shiny metal implements that resembled relics from decades past. A large dental chair, upholstered in faded burgundy leather, stood in the center. Jonathan swallowed hard, noticing a strange collection on shelves lining the walls. Rows of glass jars, each carefully labeled, filled with what looked disturbingly like teeth. "Just sit back and relax," Dr. Hale murmured soothingly, pulling on a pair of immaculate white gloves. Jonathan reluctantly eased into the chair, gripping its armrests tightly, breathing shallowly to contain his panic. The dentist adjusted the overhead lamp, bathing Jonathan's face in harsh, clinical light. He opened Jonathan's mouth gently, examining closely with practiced precision. You've been suffering quite a bit, haven't you?" Hale whispered softly, eyes glittering strangely as they focused on Jonathan's infected molar. Jonathan nodded, unable to speak clearly, with the dentist's fingers pressing into his mouth. "This tooth needs to come out," Hale continued, his voice eerily gentle yet somehow commanding. Jonathan's heart began pounding harder, his palms sweating profusely. He hated the thought of extraction, but relief from the agony outweighed his fear. He tried to relax, focusing his gaze upward, noticing the ceiling's intricate molding patterns shaped disturbingly like grotesque gaping mouths. Suddenly he felt a sharp prick as Hale administered anesthetic. The numbness spread quickly, and his anxiety momentarily subsided. Jonathan closed his eyes, breathing deeply. Soon he felt pressure as Hale began his work, but no pain. Instead, a strange calmness washed over him, almost hypnotic, pulling him toward a dreamlike state. But abruptly, Jonathan's relaxation shattered. His eyes snapped open. Something felt terribly wrong. He couldn't move. His limbs felt heavy, immobilized not merely by anesthesia, but by something deeper, darker, a force pinning him in place. He tried to call out, but his voice was strangled, trapped inside his throat. Above him, Dr. Hale stared intently, his face no longer calm or comforting. Instead, an eerie, predatory hunger gleamed in his eyes. He held the forceps firmly, grinning strangely as he withdrew Jonathan's tooth, blood dripping slowly down his gloved fingers. "Perfect," Hale murmured softly, admiring the extracted tooth. "Another beautiful specimen." Jonathan struggled in vain, panic overtaking him as Hale moved slowly toward the shelves, filled with glass jars. With a trembling hand, the dentist placed Jonathan's molar into an empty jar, carefully labeling it. Jonathan Miller, October 14th. Horror surged within Jonathan. He realized the jars around him were indeed filled with teeth, each one labeled with different names and dates spanning decades. "Do you know," Hale said quietly, approaching Jonathan again, his tone casual and conversational, "the power teeth possess? Ancient cultures knew. They believed teeth held fragments of the soul. When you remove a tooth, a piece of you remains bound to it. Jonathan fought desperately against invisible bonds, terror surging through him, helpless beneath the dentist's penetrating gaze. "My collection," Hale whispered reverently, gazing around the room at countless jars, "is more than trophies. They contain life itself, memories, fears, dreams." Jonathan gasped weakly as Hale placed a hand softly against his forehead. Immediately, visions overwhelmed Jonathan's mind. Memories he had forgotten, fears buried deep, moments of sorrow and joy, pulled out and twisted, leaving him empty and hollow. "I feed on them," Hale murmured calmly, eyes closed, savoring Jonathan's stolen memories. "Their pain sustains me." Finally regaining slight movement, Jonathan surged upward, breaking Hale's spell momentarily. He bolted from the chair, stumbling blindly into the corridor. Hale did not pursue. Instead, he watched quietly, smiling knowingly, confident that Jonathan couldn't escape. Jonathan ran through twisting corridors, losing his sense of direction amid countless doors. Each one opened into identical rooms, filled with endless rows of jars, thousands of teeth glittering in pale lamplight, each whispering faintly, crying out in silent desperation. Voices of strangers echoed in his mind, begging for release. Jonathan screamed, overwhelmed, as he stumbled helplessly through an endless maze. After what felt like hours, he burst outside into the cold night air, collapsing onto the damp grass, gasping desperately. Behind him, the mansion loomed silently. Jonathan crawled weakly toward his car, feeling the emptiness inside him. Parts of himself stolen, forever trapped in Hale's collection. Days pass, but Jonathan's agony worsened. His mind slowly eroded, plagued constantly by voices of others trapped in Hale's jars, unable to withstand tormenting whispers and haunting visions. Jonathan returned compulsively to the mansion, driven by an inexplicable need. The door swung open smoothly as Hale greeted him with a calm smile. "I knew you'd return." Jonathan fell to his knees, weeping, pleading for release from agony. "Please," he begged, "make it stop." "I can help you," Hale replied gently, holding out his gloved hand, guiding Jonathan once more toward the chair. "The only true relief is surrender." Helplessly, Jonathan complied, collapsing into the chair, his sanity unraveling rapidly. Hale worked swiftly, extracting tooth after tooth, slowly, deliberately, savoring Jonathan's cries. Each extraction robbed Jonathan of another memory, another piece of his identity, until nothing remained but emptiness, hollow flesh and bone, devoid of humanity. Jonathan Miller became just another jar on Dr. Hale's endless shelf, a silent soul eternally imprisoned alongside thousands of others, each tooth whispering softly, endlessly, their collective sorrow sustaining Hale's twisted immortality. Outside, beneath the moon's pale glow, the old Victorian mansion stood watch, silently, patiently awaiting the next unfortunate patient who might wander inside, suffering quietly, unaware that relief from pain might mean something infinitely worse. I hope you've already drifted off into a peaceful sleep. If not, I truly hope the upcoming stories on my channel will help you get there. If you enjoyed this one, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'd be so happy if you liked and shared this video with your friends. It means a lot and gives me the encouragement to keep creating more stories like this.